Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the Outer Rhythm Fantasy Studios. I'm Jamie. That's Eli. It's Wednesday. It's cloudy. It's rainy up here. Few thunderstorms, which is nuts because just a few days ago we had snow to thunderstorms. It,
Thunder snow.
Spring does not know if it wants to come or stay. So it's totally insane. But yeah, before we get too far into it, before I start ranting on and on, real quick, I'm just gonna plug these real quick. Just make sure you Discord link is in the description below. So if you want to join our Discord, come over there and join us down there. We have Apple, Spotify, and I think Google Play is still there. Google Store or whatever the hell it is. Google Audio. I don't know, but I think it's still there. I haven't yet seen anything. It might be still there. I don't know. So, but join us all down there. After the show, or usually I try to get that stuff uploaded as quick as possible. But I've been busy, so I have a couple episodes to actually try to actually get uploaded.
Yeah, back Jay up on that. I think Google. I don't know if they're playing games with us. I think they still exist. Podbean, Spotify, obviously YouTube. Nice playlist. Jay's got a long playlist of all the spotlights we've done since back in September. So I mean, anyone from Braylon Allen, running back from Wisconsin, up until now, we're gonna post Josh Cephus when we finish him up tonight. Take this down quick here. Bam, 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 bam. Weather can't make up its mind. This is how crazy this damn state is. Oh, Eric, he finally got a name. Eric got a name. Clap track. Eric got a name. This state's crazy. Sioux Falls right now, it's like 62 and sunny, and Jamie's a couple hours north.
Yeah,
and it's probably thunder snow, thunderstorming. It's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, it's been partly cloudy up here, and it's mostly just been like raining off and on, sunny, and then some storms. But this is all should pass through, and then we should be fine for tomorrow. It'll be all nice for the weekend. Well, it will be 60s, and Sunday or Saturday is supposed to be like 70s. Yeah, so that'd be a nice day to get out.
Break out the shorts, baby.
Hey, the crazy thing is I already been wearing shorts.
Probably those plaid ones. Remember those plaid shorts you used to have, like the I think they were like South Pole or something, the long ones.
Yep.
Used to love those things.
Yeah, I love them too, but I think my waist is growing just a little bit, so I can't wear those anymore. Sad.
No.
But yeah, we are going to jump in. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about Joshua Cephus from the UTSA Roadrunners, but the crazy.
We need sound effect.
I know. I was gonna
Wile E. Coyote, a little sound effect.
Oh, I should have did that. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I was going to actually find some more sound clips.
Does he go, Jamie? Does he go meep meep?
Yep, meep meep. But yeah, that will be Josh Cephus. Meep meep. Yeah, because he's quick. He's super quick. But anyways, yeah. So one quick headline. Rashid Rice has
this guy again.
Yeah, just came across my notifications here just like a moment ago. But yeah, Rashid Rice actually they have like 8 charges against him, and for the accidents and attempted not homicide, or it was one of those things. I don't want to put words in my mouth here.
Yeah. I know he killed someone, but maybe. Not at this point, Jamie. At this point, nothing with this guy surprises me.
Yeah, well, for us and Dynasty, this really sucks because I think I have maybe 1 share of him, but maybe I shouldn't have got rid of Puka because
see that door? You see that door? That's my. Those are my shares. Okay, these are my shares of Rashid Rice. They're going right out the
door. That's fantastic.
No, we got to make a deal. Somebody, I know he's on at least 1 or maybe 2 of my team. Yeah, he's too good. I mean, he's too good to cut. I mean, second year guy, productive, but yeah, I'll trade him. Let's make a deal. I want him out.
Yeah.
You know what? There, Tyler Boyd just sitting out there. I know the Chiefs, they're strapped because they paid Chris Jones. Mahomes is making them, a buku bucks. Hollywood, I don't think he's too expensive, and maybe some of the other guys too. But so maybe I don't know if Tyler Boyd was willing to take like a 1-year deal or something cheap that could bring him in and just kind of do patchwork like they do. But yeah, I wouldn't count on this guy for 2024. This could turn into a Calvin Ridley situation. Now, granted, it was, there was, other circumstances, mental health, and possibly gambling and some other stuff with Ridley. There were different issues. Ridley wasn't, drag racing and trying to, kill people on the road or whatever. But, remember how like, oh, when's Ridley coming back? And then it took what, a year or two? Where he was like, he was DOA, and then the Falcons traded him to Jacksonville, comes back. So yeah, I mean, Rashee Rice, it could be a situation like that where Watson, a couple years ago with the massage stuff, his last year with the Texans, you're like, oh, is he going to play? Is he not? And then he ends up, getting suspended, sitting out. I don't think they wanted him to play. So, if you have shared, Steve, I would trade him, or I'd sit him. I'd sit him away, stash him away. Because you're at minimum half the year. Minimum half the year, you're not going to have this guy.
I would believe so. Yeah, it sucks just because today I traded away Puka, which I drafted in one of our smaller dynasty leagues. A guy wanted him, so I ended up I have my first round, I have his first round, and I have a 2025 pick as well. So I got a few nice picks. I mean, I wanted to kind of see what Puka did, but I think with Cooper Kupp maybe coming back, that what he did this year might not happen again. So he might, it might come down just a hair. So I mean, what his production he did this year, it might just come down maybe like 10% of that. I mean, he might get close to 1,000 yards, but I figured, what the hell? I mean, I can actually get guys like Rome. I can get guys like Neighbors, or I can get, I can build off, off that. And for next year, there's guys I like next year, so I actually have 2 picks in the second round for next year. So I mean, that's nice. And who knows? I might even be try to get some running backs. You never know. Maybe draft a guy from Arizona or something.
I was like, that guy sounded like, like he works for the Commanders or something. Maybe he's a front office guy that moonlights doing fantasy. Because I mean, that sounded like a great haul for you. Bunch of picks. We know Matt Stafford's not going to repeat from his 2023. Guy was probably a top 6 or 7 fantasy quarterback last year. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I know he tore it up. Probably half the year, Stafford would have been the top guy. I mean, he was tearing it up. I don't see him replicating that. I think Stafford's going to be 36 this year, 36, 37. So. Yeah, I wouldn't bet, and then, Cooper Kupp, if he's fully healthy, he's still only 30, 31. So, I mean, Cooper Kupp's got at least a couple years left. So yeah, that we might have seen the peak for Puka. I mean, he might still be a, 1,000-yard, really good receiver, but I don't the record breaking stuff. It might have been just a 1-year deal. So, and then Stafford can always get hurt. And then you've got, I forget who they signed as the backup, but he's not Matt Stafford. I mean, come on, Matt Stafford, when he's fully healthy, top 10 fantasy quarterback every year. So
yeah, for sure.
That's good. So in review, I think that was a really good deal for you picking up all those picks.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. I mean, I was like, well, I'm like, screw it. I'm like, hey, at least I had him on my team for maybe like a week and some, or when we got this done, I'm like, yeah. But hey, I'll get some better receivers, because I think honestly I have Rashee Rice after this, so I'm going to need wide receivers now. So I mean, with Rashee Rice maybe possibly missing some time, depends on how long this actually takes. I mean, it might take a little while, but yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. I want that name banned from this show. The only Rice I want to be talking about at receiver possibly is Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's son that's coming in. I don't want to talk about Rashee Rice anymore.
What?
What?
Oh man, yeah, it is kind of crazy to think about. How we look up to some of these guys, and then because we look them as football players being you know, established guys, role models and stuff like that. And, what kind of, doing, stupid things like this, how does that put out there for younger people that look up to you and whatnot? So what does that put out to, just a younger generation that wants to be in football or something like that? How are they supposed to like handle themselves when they get to, places like that? Do they stand up to the peer pressure, or the common sense stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's so stupid. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the John Morant situation. The guard from the
Yep,
Grizzlies,
yep,
NBA. Obviously, Rashee Rice isn't the level of player John Morant is. John Morant, when he's on, is an all-star MVP candidate level kind of guy. So, Rashee Rice isn't that. I don't even think Rashee Rice will even make a Pro Bowl in his career. But, it's still like you're 7-figure professional athlete. And they don't just hand warrants out to anybody. You got a warrant. I mean, you got a warrant. You got 8 charges. That's some serious shit. I mean, that's not. This isn't some petty theft like he took a case of beer from the convenience store. I mean, this guy did some serious stuff. So
yeah.
let's not let him off lightly here.
Yeah. So pretty much the report says there's 8 counts of aggravated assault, collision involving serious bodily injury, and 6 counts of a collision involving injury as a result of the incident, which left 4 people with minor injuries. It's per NFL Ian Rappaport. So this is from RotoWire I'm looking at here quick. So that just gives you a quick overlay of all the charges that are coming against this guy.
Yep. And I want to preface, I didn't want to say Rashee Rice was, popping the trunk and had acting like John Morant, trying to gun people down and shit and, acting tough and stuff. He wasn't that, but it's still like, dude, you got to know better. I mean, remember years ago, who was that Saints receiver that manslaughter? Dante Stallworth. Stallworth, remember him from the Patriots and the Saints? He's a decent receiver. Had some decent fantasy years. He fucked his life up. Henry Ruggs, who we talked about on last week's show, fucked his life up. These were guys that were going to be in the, they were good enough to be long-term NFL receivers, probably 10-year careers, make some good money, just keep your nose clean. And this clown is, get him out of here. Next topic. Get him out of here.
Yes. So our next topic is we're gonna jump into. So I think that kind of covers all of our NFL news. There wasn't really anything else besides just that little Rashee Rice thing. It's like, oh, snap, crackle, pop. So, but I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of conversations about this and what people are gonna do in fantasy and yada yada. But that's gonna come down the road. I'm sure we'll know something before fall time what's gonna happen, and who knows? With the NFL draft just coming right around the corner. I'm sure the Chiefs maybe will end up taking another, taking a wide receiver. You never know.
Yep. That's what does Paul Heyman say? That's not a prediction. That's a spoiler.
Yep. Hey, there we go. I have to see if I can find that sound clip there. Oh, but anyways, all right, guys, we're gonna get into Joshua Cephus here. He's from the UTSA Roadrunners. That's down in Texas, and he's, in our eyes, he's a little underrated. He's a guy that I think is just kind of going really on scene, but being the division and whatnot, it might deflect a little bit of why he's not higher up in a lot of these ranks. I mean, looking at just quickly here, I like looking at it's called Draft Tech. It's actually just gives a nice little quick ranking, of all the guys and whatnot. You can go there, you can look at, you can actually it actually separates wide receivers to slot receivers and whatnot. So I mean that's a nice. So you can look at pretty much all the stuff here. defense stuff too, so you can look at all that stuff and whatnot. But right now, um, there's another guy we're gonna talk about too as well next week too as well, which is Bub Means, and Joshua
Bubba,
Cephus is at
Bubba,
yep.
Bubba.
Joshua Cephus is on this site. Both those guys are ranked 30 and 31, but overall rank 275 and 281. So just quickly, just on that. So they, so we'll say,
Excuse me. So a couple different outlets. Obviously, Draft Tech. What Jay found. What I'm going to talk about here, Draft Buzz. There's the big networks. ESPN's got their list, and CBS and all sports. All these different places have their PFF. Everybody's got their list. So, but he falls somewhere like position wise, receivers. He's going to fall somewhere in the 30s. No matter, probably between kind of where we're at, between 30, 31 to like 37, somewhere in there. So, and that's usually in the undrafted free agent range. So, I'll just talk about the graphic there. So I use Draft Buzz. We've been using that since pretty much the beginning because it's a nice combination of all these different places. So again, they're very up to date on things. So 263 is his overall rank. There's only 257 draft picks, so you do the math right there. So there's a good chance he's not going to be drafted. Receiver rank number 37. He's 6'2", 185. Played 5 years. I mean, had a couple games his freshman year in 2019, and then actually, especially his last 3 years in college. He really had some. So it was consistent production. We see a lot of these top receivers. They'll have, that's because they're in bigger colleges. Obviously, if you're at Oregon, you're sitting behind probably an NFL receiver. If you're at Ohio State, you're probably sitting behind an NFL receiver. So maybe your second, third year, you have 500 yards, and then maybe your junior year, or your senior year, you pop. You have a 1,400 yard, 12 touchdown kind of season, like a Troy Franklin or somebody along those lines. You'll pop, but no, he had 3 very consistent years. I have them on the bottom there on the graphic there. Had 71 grabs, 87 grabs, and 89 grabs those 3 years. So very consistent production. Yardage went up too. I mean, catches went up every year and yardage went up every year. I like that. Tight ends or touchdowns too. 6, 6, and 10. So yeah, it was a very. I like players like this, especially you're playing college fantasy. You know what you're getting. You know what you're getting. It's and from a stat line, he didn't have any stinkers. If you're looking at any of the games on the bottom ticker there, you didn't see like a 1 catch, 12-yard game. Or last week when we did Johnny Wilson had a game where he had 0 catches, 0 targets, 0 yards. So basically and if you had him in fantasy, you're wasting him that week. And his production was shit to begin with. He had a couple big games, and that's what's going to end up getting him drafted in probably the second, third round, which is but back to Josh Cephus here. His 40 times not the greatest, 4.62, but there have been a lot of other guys. Yeah, Jay's got his graphic. Yeah, even I guess whatever you want to call it is his second year, freshman year. 58 grabs, over 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. So it was all very gradual.
Yeah, it was
gradual progress, just small increments, very consistent. Love that.
Yeah, and I actually kind of broke those down. Like, yeah, I mean, I didn't put his like freshman year up there because it was only like 8, like eight receptions for like 153 yards and 1 touchdown in there. So I mean, it was really not much of a standout, but breaking it all down, 394 to 256, 182 to 164. So you can kind of see how much, his uptick of each year. And with just due to that too, like there was a guy who actually came in with him at the same time, and that was Zachariah Franklin. Both, so he was teammates with him throughout the whole season, or for his whole career. Like besides this last year, he transferred to Ole Miss, but he played with him, and Franklin was actually a 2000 actually 100 or 1,000-yard receiver the last 2 years, and so once he left, that's why Cephus actually got into that number 1 role here in 2023, which is why he led to his 1,000 yards this year. There we go.
Yeah, it was a mouthful.
Yeah, I
No,
know, right?
he had a damn good senior year. Look at that, almost 90 grabs, over 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns. I mean, he filled up the stat line. We'll see. Jay's probably got a list somewhere coming up, maybe where he ranked, maybe in his conference. They were in the AAC or nationally, like where he would have been at. But I imagine that's towards the top, especially with all those receptions.
Yeah.
I was just saying with this 40 time, there's been a lot of guys, and he can do slot and X. I mean, he's a versatile guy. You can kind of move him around. But there have been a lot of like slot guys that haven't run the fastest 40 times. That's why they're, slot guys. They're not every, we always think of a slot guy. We think of a 5'8", 170-pound guy, right? You think of Calvin Austin. You think, that kind of that body type, just a little,
Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is a
Brandon
good
Cooks. Yeah. You think of smaller, slender guy. But you got CeeDee Lamb, good size receiver. Obviously, he's probably the most famous, maybe the best slot guy in the league. But Amon, I mean St. Brown from the Lions. He's pretty damn good too. Similar size, and he ran a slow 40 time. I think he was somewhere in the 4.6 range too. Devontae Adams was somewhere in this range. One of the best, probably a Hall of Fame receiver, one of the best in the game. So even CeeDee Lamb, I think, ran like a 4.5. So the 40 time, I'm not so worried about. He's got good football speed. When you watch like highlights of him on YouTube, or if you were just watching any of his games throughout the year, if you watch that bowl game, I think it was back in December, the Frisco Bowl against Marshall. If you saw, he's got good football speed. Kind of Puka's not. He's not Puka. I'm not saying he's Puka, but it's one of it doesn't translate to hey, go out and run who's like Xavier Worthy. Do we really think Xavier Worthy is going to be worth a first round pick? No, but there might be somebody at the end of the first round, maybe a desperate team, let's say the Chiefs. Maybe they're like, oh well, this guy's a speedster, or what's going on with Rice and blah blah blah. It's like, dude, it's another situation where he's getting drafted on his speed. He probably went to probably a track guy, and so I don't trust that. The eye test with this guy says he's got good football speed. He's also a good route runner, runs precise routes, good after the catch. He's a good blocker, strong hands. I sound like I'm getting off for the guy here, but the more I talk about him, the more I'm like, God damn, yeah, this is.
Well, yeah. We got to hype. We got to hype these guys up a little bit, I mean,
and some of these guys, I didn't, we don't see a ton of. I mean, we see obviously the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Alabamas, the LSUs. We see all these these teams on CBS on Saturdays and ESPN. Notre Dame on NBC. There's just different places you see all these teams. Maybe if you're watching Big Ten Network, you're seeing Wisconsin, you're seeing programs like that. If you're watching, you had the Pac-12 package, you had Washington, Oregon, USC, all those teams. You don't see a lot of UT. You don't see a lot of Texas, San Antonio. Okay, that's just not one of the teams you come. Maybe you'll see them. Maybe you'll see him on a random time on ESPN. ESPN2, if that's even still a thing. Or in a bowl game. That's when you'll come across this program, and that's what I'm saying, Jay. I was surprised that he didn't transfer. It would have been easy. It would have been Jay. It would have been easy for him to take the money, kind of like what almost like what Malik Washington did. And I'm not saying Malik Washington's a sellout. I mean, we would have done that too in that position. Like, hey, I can go to a better program. Northwestern's not cutting it. I mean, let's just face it, they're a low end Big Ten team. Or I can go to Virginia and I can go tear it up, and I can basically raise my stock from probably being a 7th round undrafted guy to a third. Malik Washington's probably going to be a 3rd round pick. And have a solid NFL career. So Cephus, maybe had he gone that route, maybe had he gone to maybe Iowa State. I don't think he would have gone to like Alabama or Oregon, because he probably would have seen minimal playing time, and we wouldn't even be discussing him, right? But maybe if he went to like a mid-pack, Power 5 team, like an Iowa State, Colorado with Dion, program like that, I think maybe he would have been more on the national scene. But there's a lot of stuff that I like about the guy.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Coughing up that bullshit. And then one more thing, 'cause I think, look, you want to say something, but we can get back into the stats too, but he had a DWI a couple years ago, I think 2022. So, these guys, I don't know. From when I was reading, he didn't put anybody's life in danger. He just fucked up, basically. I ended up, I think it was like a 0.15 he blew, so it's like double the legal limit. So he fucked up. Dak, I mean, if you remember back in the day, famously, Dak got a DUI. Dak got in trouble, and Dak's had zero issues in the NFL. So other than pre-draft, shit like that. So, that might be an issue too with where he's projected, because what I see on tape, man, I'm seeing at least a 4th round guy. Like, if you just look at the tape, you look at what, I know he didn't face the best programs. I mean, he had a good game against Tennessee, though. I mean, Tennessee was a pretty damn good SEC team. Had a good game against them, as you can see on the bottom. Obviously had a good bowl game. I mean, Marshall's not a high-end program, but, that's still a bowl viable team. That's still a winning team. And in the Shrine Bowl, East-West Shrine Bowl, had 4 catches, 46 yards. So he got targets there. So obviously they thought high enough of him there to feed him a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I'll let you get your thoughts, and then if you have any thoughts on the DWI, if maybe that might be why he goes undrafted, or he's a late, he's maybe a 6th, 7th round flyer kind of guy.
Yeah, just quickly on that, nowadays, we have cell phones in our hands almost constantly, and it's easy enough to be like, all right, man, I'm drunk. Either you call a friend, like, hey, man, come get me. I shouldn't be driving right now.
Yeah.
I mean, with the way, with all the stuff that we have nowadays, like, you should see these things, especially if you're a football player, you're like, all right, man, I know I'm drunk. I shouldn't be driving. I shouldn't take the risk. And, we got Ubers, you have, you're in college, dude. You have friends that are like, hey, guys, come get me. Here's the keys to my car, drive it home or whatever. And then you have your ass covered. It's, it saves you the hassle and actually, getting busted, going through all the jail, the process of getting DWI and whatnot. I mean, it's easy enough to just call an Uber if you have to. I mean, what?
Yeah, there's
$9,
the
$10?
app right there. It took Jay, how long? That took me 15 seconds to open up the app, put in your address. They took there. Yeah, I get it. There's no excuses in 2024, so we kind of look at it like, hey, you got poor judgment? Like, hey, dude, we know you're 6'2", 185 stud, arguably the best player in the history of this program. I mean, you think UTSA, you're gonna think Josh Cephus now. Going forward till somebody better comes in. But this guy's probably the best player in the history of the program. It's like, yeah, there should have been, obviously there should have been his buddies, or somebody should have been watching his back. Like, hey, dude, get on your phone. I know some of these bigger cities, San Antonio, it's probably, it's not $10 to get across town. It's probably 40, but still it's worth it. You do stuff like that.
A $40 Uber to what? $300, $400 for fines? Hey,
Fines plus he could be hurting himself, because now instead of being like a 4th, 5th round pick, or let's be nice, let's say 4th round pick. Let's say he not had that on his list, because the only thing I see, Jay, is like he's got some press coverage issues and limited route tree. But I mean, those are like, that's nitpicking, right? Like, that's not that's stuff that's correctable. I mean, that's stuff you get in the right system. They'll maximize what he does best. Okay. But yeah, let's say he's a 4th round pick. He doesn't have that. Now he's almost guaranteed a roster spot, just about. Now, being a probably undrafted free agent, now he's going to have to, now he's going to work from scratch. Basically, he just made his route to the, no pun intended, he made his route to the NFL twice as hard. And I just don't see a lot of the, just play wise, I don't see a lot of the negatives. Obviously, smaller school, couple little nitpicky things, but the rest of the stuff I see, I like. it's just as me. I didn't see anything online. I didn't see any YouTube videos. I didn't see anything like, hey, this guy's got, the DWI, red flags, and blah blah blah. That was just me saying, kind of, hey, I can see these NFL teams being like, hey, this isn't Marvin Harrison Jr. This isn't Malik Neighbors. This isn't Brian Thomas Jr. This isn't like a blue chip first round kind of guy. He's just not. He's good, but he's not that good. So they're gonna treat it differently. It's like, no, dude, you're a mid-round guy from a small school. You make this kind of mistake, you're gonna pay for it. So he probably cost himself more than just the the classes he probably had to go to and the fine and that shit. He probably cost himself 6 figures easily.
Most definitely. But hopefully things like this comes as a learning experience, and like, all right, man, I got to be more responsible and stuff like that. And hopefully, things like that actually, give you a little wake up call and like, dude, I could
I
have
hope
probably,
so, yeah.
I could have been in a bad accident. Somebody else could have been injured, So I mean, it kind of gives you a wake up call to, be more responsible for yourself. Cause, I mean, like I said earlier, we look up to guys, especially when they're in the, they're, playing at the highest level as possible. I mean, we look up to these guys as, role models and stuff like that, So I mean, even though, we might be playing fantasy, but we look up to these guys, what kind of image will they put out there to the world? Is he doing reckless stuff? Is he stupid? You're not thinking clearly, I mean, things like that, judge your character, and you don't want things like that to judge your character, and but I mean, overall, just I knew you were mentioning like with him, like me, like I'm like I would have thought, I'm like, dude, like if he would have transferred, like I would have thought, OSU would have been like the Cowboys, not the
Yeah,
Buckeyes.
Oklahoma State, yeah.
Oklahoma State
Absolutely.
probably would have been a great place for him because they didn't really have really a true number one wide receiver down there. They had some mediocre guys down there,
Dude,
and like
Jay,
I think he would have been a good fit for them,
could you imagine Ollie Gordon with Josh Cephus?
right?
I mean, we're talking, we're
Yeah.
yeah. Let me talk to you. Got that good Gatorade Zero there. I think
Damn right.
no, I do. Yep, there you go. It's tasty. Uh, yeah. What do you say? Yeah, he should. He should have transferred. It's good to see loyalty. I mean, we don't see this anymore. If you're a stud at a smaller program, most guys will take the money and the opportunity to get seen. I mean, Oklahoma State, I mean, that's still a Big 12 school. There's still a
Oh
power
yeah,
conference. You're going to be seen there, especially with Ollie Gordon, who, regardless of draft status, I mean, had he come out this year, Ollie Gordon would have been the first running back taken.
oh yeah, most
No
definitely.
question. He's better than I said it. Yeah, I said it. He's better than Trey Benson. He's better than these other. Obviously, we love Bucky, but he's better than Bucky Irving. A lot of these higher Braylon Allen, all these other top running back. I think he's better than Blake Corum. So you team him up at Oklahoma State, for example. Lethal. That's what that offense was missing. Was just a playmaker like this guy.
For sure. I know with the Roadrunners, they actually transferred out of
Meet.
the they left the Conference USA to go over to the American Athletic Conference, which they came out and actually had a pretty good season. They rocked it. They ended up being like
9-4.
yeah, 7-1 in the conference, and then overall, I'm sure they were a little bit better than that. But yeah, they were playing. They played Tulane this year. They got beat, but I mean, I'm sure I was gonna go back and take a look at some more of that stuff. But teams like Rice, he played against McCaffrey. He played against
Yep.
him. He played. I know I think they played at UAB. I know they played East Carolina a little bit. So I mean, there's good teams. I mean, he even played against. I don't think they played Memphis this year. I don't think so. But I mean, other than that, I mean, look at there are some good teams in there. I mean, North Texas. I actually had a guy from North Texas on my team in college. And that I mean, he was a superstar. So I mean, there's some good talent in this conference. So I mean, it's it's not. It's kind of like I wouldn't say like a Power 5, but maybe like a lower Power 5 team, because you got your Power 5, then you kind of got these other smaller ones, these smaller divisions that got good players.
Yeah, and from a legacy standpoint, would you rather be the you know, 102nd best receiver in the history of Ohio State, or would you rather be the greatest receiver at UTSA where they talk about you for the next 20 years, right?
Right.
So I mean, it might be a little bit of both. And then he's a Texas boy. He's from the Houston area.
Yep.
So, maybe Baylor, if he was going to actually go to a mid-level Big 12 team. Yeah, no, but I know, but they're a mid-pack power team.
Yeah, but I mean, Baylor, I mean, look at all the Baylor guys that came out. They're trash. They
They
end
are.
up
No,
being
I
all
agree.
trash. So I would have not liked him at Baylor
Why
at
I'm
all.
coughing so much tonight. I knew Baylor was coming, and I was like, oh God, keep it in.
So here's and you're talking about loyalty.
TCU, TCU's even worse.
Yeah. So you were talking about. So you were talking. You were talking about loyalty, and I was mentioning Franklin, Zachariah, Franklin, and Frank Harris. So all these guys actually came in together. He was Frank Harris was there for 5 years. He didn't start right away. Maybe I think it was his second year in. So he actually started as their QB and made a rapport with Cephus and Franklin and whatnot. So I mean, they had a nice little trio of weapons down there at UTSA. So I mean, they actually had themselves some guys down there, which was totally awesome. Which is why it worked for them. Which is why they end up being, they pretty much were the team with Conference USA. Before they made the move.
Yeah, and like I said, these conferences, this is going to be harder to come by. Coming years, guys of this caliber. You're not going to see a ton of this anymore. Joe Flacco at Delaware. Even some guys we like who've done profiles on spotlights. Isaiah Davis. Isaiah Davis is going to make it to at least a Boise State, Fresno State, like a lower end hot, Division I team, right? You're not going to have guys like that fall through the cracks anymore with the amount of money that's being thrown out. Let's just be honest, because a lot of these guys aren't wired like this. They're not, It's a money grab / what program gets me the most exposure so I can get to the next level, get to the NFL. So I commend. I think it's cool because that's what we grew up on. Guys would stay at the same program 3-4 years. So I think it's cool that a guy like Josh Cephus, he stayed at Texas San Antonio and kind of made it his own. And if you look at that, we on the bottom ticker, all-time leader in receptions, receiving yards, starts. And another small stat too. I know I've been spewing out a lot, but there's a lot I like about this guy, and it's our show, damn it. He had 433 targets in college, which is, I mean, that's a huge sample size. So I mean, you've seen if you're a scout or you're an NFL team, you've seen all of this guy's body of work. There's nothing you don't know. 433 targets, only 9 drops. So that means that he's got, over a 97% catch rate. And so I don't, that's another thing I don't worry about at the next level. Like, the guy's got great hands, runs precise routes. There's just a lot of stuff to like.
Yeah. And and you were mentioning like, with the record, him holding that, with the Roadrunners here. I mean, just he was a top 10. He was a top 10 for receptions in both the Conference USA and ACC, and then also top 10, receiving yards in both conferences. Just with them just entering the conference, the ACC, or AAC, this last year. So he led them in that category
that's
as
their
well.
Fault. Jay, that's their fault for getting letters too close to ACC.
Right?
You should have waited until the ACC went under, like the Pac-12 did, and then you we'll just steal them. We'll be the ACC now.
Right?
We got to make it hard on people.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I thought that was quite interesting too as well. But I mean, there's some more I like to bring up too as well. Absolutely. We were talking about, you were talking about the Tennessee game. I tried going back and trying to, like, I know there's some small clips on, YouTube and stuff like that, they kind of break down the quarters by quarters. And I mean, I didn't really see a whole lot. I wanted to see his touchdowns, I kind of wanted to see how he panned actually against, legit, top 5 teams, at that time, they were playing, ranked 23 Tennessee. He put up 57 yards. He had 7 catches. He had 1 touchdown, but I didn't get an opportunity to see that. But I was more wanted to see is how he managed against, press coverage. I wanted to see how he got off, kind of more of these higher ranked defenses. I kind of wanted to see how he dealt with some of that stuff. I didn't really see a whole lot, but I would actually have to go back and watch a 2-hour. um I have to go back and watch that game for like 2 hours just to kind of get a good idea. But I mean, I have a pretty good idea. But yeah, other than that, that was just one game I thought. Other than the rest of them, USCF, ECU, Houston, they're all in division. Pretty probably pretty slack defenses. But all I know is that they only put up 14 points against Tennessee, but Tennessee was really going at them, so they were getting a lot of pressures. I know the quarterback had struggles too, and he had a couple of interceptions, a couple fumbles. So, you can tell the difference. But I mean, they still actually tried to put up, some points and move the offense and stuff like that. So I mean, that was the key.
Yeah, and we forget to mention too, like this was a 9-4 team. I mean, they're obviously it was in a smaller conference, and you can say, well, it wasn't the SEC, wasn't the Big Ten, they went, but still though, I mean, he's and they knew Cephus was the best player on the field. He's their best offensive player. So these teams, especially teams with better players, better Tennessee's got. I mean, they're high end SEC team. I mean, they got players everywhere on the field. They're gonna stop this guy. They're gonna double cover him. They're gonna spy on him. Like he's it's not like he's in Ohio. It's not like he's on Ohio State where I got Chris Olave next to me. I got JSN next to me. I got I got Marv Jr. next to me. Like he didn't have a kind of a co-receiver that was at his level to kind of or running game or any of that stuff. So he was always so I'm impressed with that too. Like he was like almost like a one-man show. I mean, they weren't a 3-10 program, or 3-9. Like this is a pretty damn good team, and they haven't even been at this level that long. I mean, they really haven't. A lot of these smaller schools have kind of upgraded to the D1 level. I think a couple schools here like should be the next SDSU, NDSU, the Dakota schools. They should jump up to this level and be in an AAC, be in a Conference USA, WAC, kind of a conference like that. They should join stuff like that and do what UTSA is doing. But they don't have the players right now. We see a couple of schools are playing, like Houston joined the Big 12. Obviously, they played them first game. Tennessee, they don't have the players that these bigger schools have because NIL and they haven't been established long enough. Maybe UTSA, maybe someday will be a Tennessee or even a Houston, that level program. But right now they're just not.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, other than that, yeah, I can bring up. I'll bring up his other stuff here quick too, because we're just talking in general here. Target wise, I mean, he was the leading receiver there. With them, he actually had like 26% of the target share down there. So I mean, you can kind of tell. So I mean, with his target, 125 targets. So I mean, he was seeing a good majority of them. So I mean, he was targeted almost nine, 9 targets a game, give or take. So I mean, he was doing with what he can, get with, with the target wise. So I mean, he was getting after it. Oh, I messed that up. Here we go. Move this up just a smudge. There we go. I was like, oh, wait a minute. How come I can't see this? But if you this, even though he came from a smaller conference and smaller school, I mean, I got this put down here. Check this out. So here's some targets for guys where he kind of led in with. So we talked about Malachi Washington. He had 143 targets, senior. Romo Dunze, 141 targets, junior. Torrey Holton from Colorado State, 136, junior, or not junior, senior. And then we had Neighbors, 130. McCaffrey, he was in the same conference as him, 124 targets. Cephus with 125, and then we got Xavier Worthy, 121. He was a junior. And then the last two here, Jalen Polk, up there in the Pac-12, he saw 111 targets with Washington, and then Jacob Cowing, 120. So you can get an idea of like he's up there with these named talent guys getting targets. He's coming from a smaller school, which is kind of like, which kind of sucks really because, just kind of looking at him a little bit more and like if he actually did transfer, I'm sure this would have, his targets and whatnot would have actually gone up a lot more than what we're seeing now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You look at the two Washington guys that were playing with Penix. I mean, you had two of the Washington guys in the top 10 in targets. That just it tells you all you need to know right there. Like these programs that just fling it, a lot of the West Coast schools and even LSU's been known to do it. With back in the day with Burrow and Chase Jefferson, those level guys. But fantasy points there, 260 in PPR, like that. We've gone over all the lists of all the spotlights, and 260's got to be right up there. I mean,
You'd be surprised.
It is. I mean, it's not Roma Dunze, that level, but yeah, right here, Florida Atlantic. So this is the conference.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The ACC.
Yeah, so he was second in his conference and receiving fantasy points. So that's damn good right there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
he
ahead of
led
Luke McCaffrey, we keep talking about. Luke McCaffrey is going to be a higher pick. Luke McCaffrey is going to be a third round pick, fourth round pick?
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, third in the conference for receptions, second for the yard wise.
You were talking about him earlier. You had him on your team.
Yep. Yeah, he was one of them I had. He lit up down there in Texas. I mean, he was legit, I have to go back. I know he gave me tons of points as well. So I mean, I was looking for guys. I was like, I needed wide receiver help, and I'm like, damn. And he was one guy I snagged off the waiver wire real quick, and yeah, it helped me out quite a bit. But yeah, he was third in the conference as well for 10 touchdowns as well. So I mean, he lit up the conference, dude. With Luke McCaffrey, Macklin and all those guys. So I mean, a little smaller division, but I mean, you got Wester from Florida Atlantic. They were bad. They were conference wise 3-5. I'm sure they were overall a different. Just overall probably like. Trying to think here. Overall, nope, that's not right. But some are 3-5.
Those Florida schools, other than Florida State, those Florida schools are kind of a joke right now. I mean, Gators are down, Hurricanes are UCF,
East Carolina,
Florida's kind of overrated right now.
Yeah, East Carolina, yeah, just a little bit. But yeah, I other than that, I liked what I see here. But we'll hit up the last one here too as well. So,
15th nationally. Yeah. Yep. That's about what I was thinking. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I was like, well, let's see here, and I'm like, dude, this is actually pretty damn good. In my eyes, just because I'm like, fantasy point wise, you can kind of see productions, and you can kind of look at names and seeing is he up there with a lot of these a lot of these guys that are entering in the draft, like Franklin, Washington, Neighbors, and Dunze. So is he entering? What's and we predict that he either could be drafted or in an undrafted free agent as well. But yeah, 15th in for fantasy points, 14th, so pretty much you can think about it, almost top 15, just national wise, just looking at fantasy point wise, so I mean, I think once he finds a good place, I think he can find a snitch or a hole in and somewhere in there and actually kind of rise up, the right their roster. But that's
in the piggyback on what Jay's saying, I'll do the kind of the three players I could see him projected at. Just if you're drafting him in fantasy, a rookie dynasty draft, redraft league, whatever. If you're using him in parlays, possibly if he becomes a name, if he kind of blows up from nowhere. So just so you're aware, low end floor, because I think he's going to make the NFL. I think there's going to be somebody that's going to take a chance on him. And I'll have my 5 teams here in a second. There might be a couple that could like Jay was saying, utilize his skill set, maximize it. Ronnie Bell from the 49ers. He was a 7th round pick. Kind of, I don't know if they're going to move off Brandon Ayuk or not. Like if Ayuk's going to be a long-term solution there, he might move up the depth chart a little bit if Ayuk is gone. But he's like a 5th receiver for the 49ers, which, I mean, that's a damn good team. He gets a few targets here and there, nothing special, nothing you'd run out and get for fantasy. But, Ronnie Bell is probably on somebody's dynasty roster somewhere, just sitting on the bench. So I'd say that's his floor, kind of sitting in that range. Middle tier, this is like the most realistic, like where I think his NFL stats are going to be and where he's going to, and a lot of these guys are similar size too, similar 40 times, similar size, kind of similar traits. So that's why I picked these 3 guys in particular. Trent Irwin from, remember, he's the child actor. He's the guy that was the child actor and then turned football or whatever. So Irwin is, I guess he's the slot guy with the Bengals. Now that Boyd's gone, he kind of, jumped up. So technically right now, until they, unless they draft somebody or, who knows, maybe they'll move off Higgins. Maybe they'll bring somebody else in. So maybe Irwin will stay at the 3rd receiver as the slot guy, but that's not a bad place to be. You got Joe Burrow as your quarterback. That's not a bad place to be. Irwin's, he's popped. You've seen quite a few like 45-yard bombs, 25-yard catches here and there. So, he's not like highly productive, but he's had some nice stat lines. Just like a little bit below where Hunter Renfrow was at one point. Like Hunter Renfrow was a target, machine in the slot for the Raiders a few years ago before he kind of fell off. So Irwin's like a little bit below that, but definitely has more production, more points than Ronnie Bell will. So I had Irwin as the most realistic, and then his ceiling, because we've been calling him baby CD or the great value CD. You're a Walmart shopper. And if Josh Cephus comes across this, I'm sorry, Josh. We got love for you, but CeeDee Lamb, because he run, similar size, similar skill sets, not quite the the pedigree. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb was a 1st round pick out of Oklahoma, probably a top 5 receiver in the league. I mean, arguably. So, that's some seriously high ceiling there, but that's like where he projected at. Like if he could even be a poor man CeeDee Lamb for somebody and be like the 25th best receiver in the league, that'd be a damn good career.
Yeah, that's like I take it.
Yeah, who's the 25th best receiver? Maybe Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, maybe, possibly. Yeah, it's pretty damn close. Yeah.
See what? Yeah, I mean there's nothing wrong with that. So CeeDee Lamb, that's a lot to aspire to, but that's like when me and Jamie watch him on tape, just the size, the movement, the yards after catch, all that, working out of the slot. That's the guy that I see the most of is CeeDee Lamb. Trent Irwin, most realistic, and then Ronnie Bell would kind of be the floor. Like I don't think this guy is going to be playing for the Birmingham Stallions or playing in the Canadian Football League. I think he's going to make an NFL roster.
Yeah, like the 20, like you'll be talking like 25th, 5th, kind of Pickens, McLaurin, Ridley, kind of up in that area.
Yeah,
then you got,
those are damn good players. I'd take them on my fantasy team any day of the week. Those are damn good players. If he can be at that level, you don't need to be at CDs or Jamar Chase or any, that level, but still damn good production. Sure. 1,000-yard receiver. Because those guys you're talking about are like, hovering 1,000 yards. That's damn good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was just gonna say too, quick, because we're kind of you're talking about skill sets and stuff like that. I think he's got his skill sets kind of right around the B, kind of like B+, B- kind of somewhere, not really top, tip top, but I mean, he'll have to do some work.
Good enough.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. But but when he does catch a ball, he gets a lot of those yak yards. He's good in open spaces. He makes people miss. So a lot of that, and he also has the speed to actually get that home run done. So
he's smooth.
Yeah,
he's smooth. He always catches it in stride. He's a smooth player. There's nothing, he's not juking anybody. It's like watching a figure skater. Like
there you go.
It's just the routes were smooth. It just the way he catches the ball. Everything is just smooth. Like there's no weird, clunky anything. He doesn't drop the ball a lot. I don't know. I don't see. I think he's got the potential to be a. Remember years ago, Adam Thielen went undrafted with the Vikings. Adam Thielen had a damn good NFL career. Made a couple Pro Bowls. Had a couple really good fantasy years. They got like double-digit touchdowns. I think Adam Thielen was undrafted, and there's other guys too that have gone undrafted at receiver, and more recently too. But that's the guy I was thinking of. That was Adam Thielen was very productive. He was a very good number 2 to Stephon Diggs with the Vikings. 4 or 5, 6 years ago. So yeah, if he could fall into that range too. Like Adam Thielen was a probably top 20, top 25 fantasy PPR guy in his prime too. So maybe higher. So that's what I get. He's smooth. I don't see there's guys we talk about like Johnny Wilson. The guy's going to get drafted because he's a fucking giant, right? I think like skill wise, I think this guy is he's a better overall receiver than Johnny Wilson. And Johnny Wilson's going to be taken, 5 rounds higher, right?
Yeah.
4 or 5 rounds higher. It's ridiculous. So I don't see what these other teams aren't seeing, but
yeah, for sure.
That's just me.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Yeah, I think that was pretty much everything I had too as well. I mean, it's pretty much break down what I had on him. I think we kind of wrapped that all up. Yeah, just one quick note here, quick too. I mean, he in 2019 he did have some he had some offers from Rice Air Force and Southern Miss as well, but he ended up going with the Roadrunners back in the day. So yeah,
he was a 2-star recruit.
Yep.
Like so he's done even get to this point. I mean, to be on the border of being drafted in the NFL and having guys like us talk about like, hey, this guy, he makes it on NFL roster. He could work his way up. like some of the Packers guys, Wicks,
yep,
Bo Melton, like that have like,
yep.
like, where the hell did this guy come from? And he's having 100-yard NFL games. I mean, this guy's got that potential. I mean, just this far being a 2-star recruit. I mean, that's most of these guys we talk about are 4-star guys.
Yep.
So they're blue chip 4 or 5-star guys. Got the 5 teams here, and I'll see what Jay thinks as well. I'll kind of try to I know we've said a lot of shit tonight. It's whatever. A lot of this stuff is cut up into Jay's always good with the production end and cutting this up into shorts. So if you want to share this with somebody, it'll probably be a little YouTube short or maybe a 8-minute clip or a 5-minute clip or something more for your palate to. Or if somebody that's anybody that's a UT San Antonio fan, maybe a fan of the Vikings here, maybe a fan of the Dolphins, you want to share that with them, like, hey, get to know Josh Cephus. Yeah, down the horn. Go!
I forgot about that. I'm like, oh, I have the horn.
We'll get one for all these teams. We'll get the Dolphin. We'll get the little get the little Dolphin sound effect. We'll get a lightning strike for the Chargers.
Yeah, there we go. And then we'll have a jet,
right.
for a jet, and then I don't know about the Steelers. Maybe some metal, hammer hit metal or something.
Yeah, just hammering in the railroad tracks. Cephus, I put it number 1 with the Vikings, and they have pick 232, which is the end of the middle end of the 7th round. So if he does end up getting drafted, I'm guessing 7th round. So I heard talks that the Vikings liked him and they brought him in. So I was reading some stuff on that. So just logically put him there because they got JJ, who they're going to be paying, a shit ton of money to. But, they got a young quarterback probably coming in, maybe JJ McCarthy. Why not team him up with a young guy? Put this guy, this guy, he's going to have to work his way up the hard way. It's going to be special teams, practice squad. And if Cephus is going to make it, he's going to have to work his way up. Unless he just has like a training camp like Puka did last year, where it's like, holy shit, this guy isn't a late round pick. This guy is probably the second best receiver on our roster. So unless there's a situation like that, that's where he's fallen. But think about who's in his way. I mean, really, KJ Osborne's not with him anymore. You got Addison and JJ, of course, but at that number 3 position, like why couldn't he step in there? And he's versatile too. They can put him. You don't have to put him necessarily in the slot. I mean, he's got X receiver. He's got a prototypical X receiver body. The 6'2", 185. I mean, that's prototype size. So you can put him pretty much anywhere. I don't know. What do you think about going to the Vikings? Maybe as a late round pick, undrafted guy, somewhere in that range.
It might be a little hard, but I mean, honestly, I don't mind it because they have N'Keal Harry, who's kind of
Junk.
who junk. Yep, they have Lucky Jackson from Western Kentucky, first
Fuck is
year.
that?
Yeah, I don't know. Yep. Tristan Jackson, he was been there for 3 years. Yeah, so I mean, some of these guys we never even heard of, you know. So it's very possible if he comes in and makes an impact, he could probably end up maybe being their number 3, number 4 right away.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. And that's probably why they're like, hey, we got some cheap labor coming, because if they're going to keep Addison, we've only seen 1 year of Jordan Addison, obviously, but if he's going to get a second contract, you're going to be paying these receivers a ton of money. I mean, let's just Jordan Addison's going to be a stud. JJ's already a stud. So you're going to be paying these guys, 25, 30 million north of that, whatever the cap is in a couple of years for Addison, but you're going to be paying these guys a ton of money. So you're going to need a third, fourth, fifth guy to be cheap labor that can play, and Cephus can play. Number 2, I put the Steelers. They don't have a pick, later in the 7th round. So I was like, undrafted, just say they bring him in. They trade away Deontay Johnson. Obviously, you got Pickens and Calvin Austin. He just. I know you're probably a bigger fan of him than I am, but I don't see it there. I know he's kind of their slot guy, but I don't know. What do you think about the Steelers? Bringing him in, because and they can move him too. He doesn't have. I'm just going off of what the experts are like. Oh, he's projected to be a slot receiver, but he can do a couple different roles. But what do you think about the Steelers bringing him in possibly as a practice squad guy?
Yeah, Calvin Austin, I don't mind too much. I mean, deeper leagues, he was kind of there, but I ended up dropping him before too long. Dez Fitzpatrick, it's kind of so. But yeah, Van Jefferson.
Yeah, that's what I didn't mention him on purpose, because he's he used to be moving on up. Now he's moving on down.
I think he'd be good. He'd be good behind George Pickens and Quez Watkins. I think he might have seen some playing time with them. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, Watkins is solid. He has some solid years with the Eagles or whatever. But these are guys you can if you've got what I think he's got, the skill set, and getting maybe working with Arthur Smith there, the new OC. Maybe you can utilize him a little more. These are guys you can beat out. You're not going to beat out George Pickens, obviously. I mean, Pickens is a blue chip guy. But these other guys, you can beat out for targets. I'm certain about that.
Yeah, I mean, guys like Denzel Mims, I kind of slightly remember him. Like, oh, yeah, that's right, because he played for the Jets for a little bit. I mean, it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, right. Just a bunch of bodies. They're warm bodies. That's hence why I picked these teams. Number 3, I kind of did this as because this would be a very Jets thing to do. 7th round pick. Oh, because he does. He kind of reminds, Aaron Rodgers. I could see him, in his old age, just, sitting there this guy, just running routes. This guy, seeing this guy on YouTube or something. This guy kind of reminds me of Devontae. You're gonna be sadly mistaken when he's not Devontae, but I can see the Jets hey, we'll bring him in. And they're already solidified with Garrett Wilson. Obviously, Mike Williams, the Chargers signing. So I mean, they got a legit 1-2. Xavier Gibson, the kid last year they took. He's a nice guy, role guy. Nice 4th, 5th receiver maybe, but as a starting slot guy, this would be a place he could. I mean, if he got drafted that late, he popped in the preseason, popped in training camp. This could be a guy that could see some work, because Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he swears by Devontae. And this guy has not as good, obviously, but he's got a similar skill set to Devontae.
Yeah, he does.
Smooth, good hands, just great route runner.
And I think I don't think Alan Lazard is going to be on the team. I'm pretty sure.
I don't think he is either.
I'm sure he'll be.
That's Aaron's boy.
Yeah,
Aaron's boy. He's gonna be like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, so I'm assuming they'll probably get rid of him. I think he had a 3-year contract and was pretty hefty, so I'm sure they'll try to get off him, and they'll probably trade him somewhere else. I mean, yeah, they need another guy, number 3. No, they need a number 3 guy to Xavier Gibson. So I mean, they have a few other guys. Lance McCutcheon, I think I slightly heard of him just a little bit, but
he's from he had a big preseason for the Rams a couple years ago, and I fell into it too. I kind of picked him up, and I was like, oh, McCutcheon, he's gonna be he was supposed to be what Puka ended up being. Obviously, Puka went nuts, but McCutcheon was supposed to be like a guy that could come in, late round guy, be possibly a starting receiver for the Rams, kind of be, the sidekick to Cooper and to, that damn Van Jefferson, guys like that, but just never materialized, and he must have moved on to the Jets. So that's McCutcheon.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, that kind of wraps up then. I mean, it'd be a good fit. They need some help for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree, and some cheap labor, because they're paying the defense up the ass, the quarterback. They're gonna have to pay Breece Hall. You're gonna, a couple probably next. Well, I guess running backs don't get paid anymore, but Garrett Wilson's going to be making a ton. So bills are coming in. Bills are coming due. Cheap labor. Number 4, Dolphins. I haven't had the Dolphins on any of these, these top 5 lists, so I thought I'd mix it up. Like, hey, I'll put the Dolphins in there. I love that graphic there. Undrafted free agent. They don't have a pick in the late 7th round. You're going to have to get cheaper and younger. Let's just be honest, because Jalen Waddle, he's coming up. You're either going to have to move off him or pay him at least $25 million, a season. Yep. So Tyreek, you're paying up the ass. Tua, if they're going to keep Tua's going to get $45-50 million. I mean, so the bills are coming due. Why not bring this guy in? I think Sherfield, who I think he signed with the Vikings, but Sherfield was kind of their number 3, number 4 receiver last year. He could maybe fill that Sherfield role. Like, be the, if he could make the roster, come in. I mean, look at one of their best players, Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert was an undrafted free agent. You know what I mean? And he's made a damn good career out of it. So why couldn't Cephus do that? But yeah, they're gonna need, like a lot of these teams, they're gonna need some cheap labor, guys that can play, guys that can step in. Especially Tyreek's getting older. If he goes down for a couple weeks, you're going to need a guy of this skill set to come in and get those targets. But I don't know. What do you think about Cephus to the Dolphins as an undrafted, practice squad guy?
Yeah, Chosen Anderson. Yeah, he's.
I guess Cedric Wilson, I guess, but he's so inconsistent.
Yeah, Braxton Berrios. He's kind of a smaller guy.
Berrios, yeah.
Braylon Sanders, Old Miss. I don't think I've seen him play at all. I mean, he might have been undrafted, but yeah. After Tyreek Hill, they only got Jalen Waddle. I mean, yeah, they'll need somebody down there. But even though I wouldn't want him going down to the Dolphins, but I mean, I just don't like the Dolphins in general, just because they have Tyreek Hill. So it's just like, hey, let's just run the ball or give it to Tyreek. So it's kind of like, yeah, I don't like that landing spot really. I don't like the Dolphins in general.
Well, at least you're honest. But Tyreek's getting up there in age. Like, I keep waiting for him to fall off a cliff one of these years. It just hasn't happened yet. But you're waiting for the inevitable. So maybe that's the transition point. Maybe it's like, okay, Tyreek's going to fall off. Maybe we got to move off him. Maybe 2025 or something. And, going one more year with these, and then we're going to promote Waddle. Basically, Waddle's going to be our 1. And then a guy like Cephus could come in and maybe be the 3. Because Berrios is he's just a dude. And then number 5, I have the Chargers. I had the Chargers at number 5 last week too for Johnny Wilson, because I think the Chargers got a restock. You lost Keenan Allen, like I've said before. Lost Keenan Allen, lost Mike Williams. Right now, you're looking at Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston as your 2 starting receivers. That's not good enough. I know Quentin Johnston. I sees what I sees, and he's what. Yeah, he ain't no number 1 receiver. Yeah, he ain't no number 1 receiver. To me, he's going to be Rashad Bateman. He's going to be a guy that was overdrafted, overvalued, and just never going to pan out. So Palmer's he's kind of the opposite. He's kind of an overachiever. What wasn't as highly touted, wasn't a blue chip guy. But this is a spot where he could come in and clean up nicely, because they got Justin Herbert. They brought in Jim Harbaugh. They're probably going to draft Blake Corum, the running back from Michigan. Probably take another receiver. So this is a place he could clean up nicely, get some targets. Probably year 1, if he plays his cards right, makes the team, gets taken late 7th round, can work his way up the depth chart. He could be the number 3 receiver. He really could. I see like Odunze or Neighbors being the 1, and then maybe Josh Palmer as the 2. They're gonna fall. I'm telling you, Jim Harbaugh is gonna fall out of love with Quentin Johnston real quick. And before you know,
more than likely.
Yeah, Quentin Johnston will be their number 4 receiver or traded. So this is a place he could make out like a bandit. What do you think about Cephus going late 7th round of the Chargers?
Yeah, I mean, they need all the help they can get, unless mysteriously they make a trade for T. Higgins or something like that to bring in, bring a guy like him in here. But yeah, I mean, they're very weak. They're gonna need anybody and anybody to get in here and put some work into it. And having Justin Herbert as your quarterback, hell yeah, dude. I'm down like 100%, dude. The kid's talented. I mean, and he needs wide receivers. I mean, he needs playmakers, and Cephus is a guy to command targets. I mean, I honestly, I think he could be better than Quentin Johnson. Quentin Johnson is a first round bust. He didn't do anything for us. And
here's your YouTube short. Here's Control B or whatever the fuck I gotta. Here it is. Quentin Johnson is a bust. Will be a bust, and that's the end of it. He ain't going nowhere. He ain't going nowhere but down. Okay? Because this guy, he comes in, work ethic, and just lays it down. Harbaugh is a different cat. This isn't the Brandon Staley era. Okay, this is a serious operation now. They got a serious quarterback. They're gonna have a serious running back. Blake Corum's gonna be damn good. They're gonna fix their defense, offensive lines. Like this, I mean, Chargers in a couple years gonna be a powerhouse. You can't be a powerhouse with Quentin Johnston as your number 1 receiver or even number 2. I mean, that's a joke. This guy's a bust. Like, just get him out of here. I'm done. It's almost the end of the video, anyways. That's another guy. Rashee Rice and Quentin Johnston. I don't want to talk about either of these guys. Draft last year.
Oh,
I don't know if it's allergies or what. I've been hacking it up all night because I'm like, oh god, I gotta talk about Rashee Rice and Quentin Johnston.
I'm gonna make one notable mention here. I think the Dallas Cowboys should snag this guy up. He can play next
I
as
agree.
he can play next as CeeDee Lamb, play with Tolbert, Devontae Perpin. He's all right. Jalen Monroe Copper. I haven't seen him. It's a lot of these guys are. I don't think Brandon Cooks is going to be there anymore. He says he's here, but I don't think he is.
I don't know if they cut
it. Yep, and then they took Martavis Bryant, but yeah, he's kind of washed anyways.
He's 5 years past where he, this isn't like Martavis Bryant with the Steelers, man. Like, he's long in the tooth. Yeah, Dallas would be an honorable mention team, absolutely.
Yeah,
you need dude. If they're gonna pay Dak, if they're gonna pay Micah Parsons, if they're gonna pay all these guys, CD, all these guys are making buku bucks. Like, you can't have 3 number 1, number 2-ish receivers. Like, you can't. Brandon Cooks is still a decent number 2, but you can't afford him anymore. I think he's like 18 million against the cap, possibly somewhere in that range. Like, that's too expensive when he's not the guy he was with the Saints or Patriots. Years at Rams even. So you're paying too much. You bring this guy in, and he's versatile. He's cheap labor, versatile. Stick him in, and he could be what Turpin has never panned out to be. What Michael Gallup had one good year, but they had to let him go. Michael Gallup never was that true number 2 to CD. It just I think he could clean up nicely with Dallas too, because they got a good offensive system, good operation. Dak's. You can say what you want about Dak, if he's going to be overpaid, if he hasn't won enough playoff games or whatever, but Dak's a good quarterback. He's a good fantasy quarterback. So
yeah, for sure.
I like him in Dallas too, and he's a local guy.
Yeah, for sure.
From Houston, went to San Antonio to school. He's working his way up. He's working his way up the interstate. Jay, he was at Houston, went up to San Antonio. Now he's going up to Dallas.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I was just gonna say here real quick. I was doing some YouTube searching and stuff like that. So just like a couple weeks ago, he actually, there's a channel out there called Draft Diamonds. They actually gave him an interview, gave a little background on some of the things that he did and his time at UTSA. Yeah, I didn't know he actually likes shooting he's like shooting pool, and he likes actually bowling too. And I heard that he did. I think he did some track back in the day when he was younger.
Baseball. He's a damn good baseball player. He's a damn good baseball player, track guy.
Yep, he
Yeah, he's a
mentioned
three-sport athlete.
Yeah, he tried to, but he kind of talked about that a little bit, just because of some different things happening within the program. So he kind of panned out on the baseball, and he's like, "Well, I'm gonna turn my focus to football." And I'll put the link up in the upper corner, like over there. I'll just put a link up there. So if you guys, and it's only like 20 some odd minutes. So if you guys want to check that out, it's actually a little it's something different because he actually mentioned like, "Hey, where if you actually had to, if if you went undrafted or drafted, and some teams he would maybe like to play for." He mentioned, the Texans and the Cowboys as well. So I mean, it's like, ooh, would be kind of cool, So I mean, to kind of see him, kind of just see a rate and state,
Yeah, no, and I'd have to watch the interview on him, as too, and definitely a good listen, doing some cardio later, but I just think he'd have a harder time with the Texans, especially now with Diggs there. I know it's pretty much just a 1-year deal or whatever, but Diggs is there. Tank Dell, Nico, Robert Woods is old as dirt, but he's kind of in the way too. Like, so you'd be what at best, at least year one at best, the 5th, 6th receiver. Dallas, he's got a better chance to just wow some people and be like, hey, hey man, first year you can be our number 3.
Yeah,
Come
3
in
wide receiver
and
3, wide receiver 4. Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah, totally. I would have to agree in there. Yeah, that he'll need some help. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other teams too. If we went and looked at all these rosters, you'd be like, "Yep, this, they need help here." That guy's like, "Yeah." So I mean, we can say all that, but until
Panthers.
Yeah, Panthers could be another team, but yeah. Other than that, I think that kind of wraps up all of our stuff. I'll put that link up in the description up there in the corner up there, so you guys can click it and go. And if you're guys interested, you guys can go ahead and check that out. It was a pretty interesting interview. I pretty well enjoyed. Give me a little bit more background on how he plays, why he plays like he does. But yeah, other than that, guys, stay tuned. Or for next week, I think Monday we're gonna get into Blake Watson, and then Wednesday,
yes.
and then not Tuesday. This next Wednesday, we're gonna
bub means. Bubbly means.
Well, I don't know what bubbly means, but even though it's bubbly means, I guess he's a player. But yeah,
bubbly, little can of.
But yeah, stay tuned for that. So that 2 guys coming up, Blake Watson from Memphis, and then Pittsburgh wide receiver, Bob Means, who he's kind of in the same boat as Cephus. So kind of stay tuned for that there. Other than that,
just to close out the video, I like doing guys like this that, we're they played years of college, but we're almost introducing them to the world. Like, we're kind of like, hey, be on the lookout. Now we're at the point where, we've done all the heavy hitters, the Troy Franklins, the Dunzeys, Neighbors, guys like that, especially for receivers, a lot of the heavy hitters. Now it's guys that they're, and it's interesting. They're on the fringe. Are they going to be, in the UFL? Are they going to just go off the grid? Are they going to play in Canada? Are they going to be, Pro Bowl level receivers? Are they going to put up 80 catches? There's so many. I like so many directions that these guys can go, and that'll be fun when we do Bub Me. And so, yeah, and Blake Watson, if you follow college football, next Monday, tune in for that. Blake Watson was one of the best running backs in the country this past year. Laid it down fantasy wise, and he's going to be drafted. So yeah, we got 2 good players coming next week.
Yep, for sure. And all of our Discord links in the description below, and my X and Eli's X is down there. So if you want to give us a follow, it's all down there too as well. But yeah, other than that, I think that's about it. I think it's time for us to get up out of here. I got some food to eat. I gotta head to work yet too as well. So I think that calls her quit. So next Monday, Blake Watson. Next Wednesday, Bub Means. So we're out of rhythm. I'm Jamie. That's Eli. We'll see you guys next time. Later.